My girlfriend scoffed and told me I could never survive without her. I was just a helpless man-child she had to manage. So, while pretending to go along with her plans to move to Europe with me for my new promotion, I secretly and methodically erased her from my life. When she showed up at our apartment on moving day, a new tenant opened the door. My name is Liam, and I am, by all objective measures, a competent man. At 35 years old, I've built a successful career as a civil engineer for a massive multinational firm. I spend my days managing complex, multi-million-dollar infrastructure projects, a job that demands a high degree of precision, foresight, and logistical acumen. I can, despite what my now ex-girlfriend Bianca might lead you to believe, successfully navigate the complexities of a grocery store and even manage to match my own socks on a consistent basis. And yet, for the past 5 years, I have existed in a carefully constructed state of curated helplessness. It was a role that was not of my own choosing, but one that was expertly crafted for me by Bianca, and one that I, through a combination of conflict avoidance and a misplaced sense of affection, willingly played. Our relationship began with a whirlwind of charm and dazzling efficiency. Bianca, at 34, is a force of nature. She works in high-end public relations, a world where image is everything, where perception is reality, and where every facet of life is a potential branding opportunity. When she moved into my apartment 3 years ago, she didn't just bring her suitcases, she brought her professional skill set with her. My life, it seemed, became her newest, most challenging project. It started subtly, a series of small, almost imperceptible adjustments. She began by picking out my clothes for work each morning, sighing with a theatrical, long-suffering air that my own taste in fashion was tragically pedestrian. She then moved on to the kitchen, completely reorganizing my pantry and declaring my perfectly functional system of organization to be logistically unsound. She took over our social calendar, slowly and systematically filtering out my old, comfortable friends, the ones I could be my true, unvarnished self with, in favor of her own more vibrant and socially advantageous circle of acquaintances. Every act of control was masterfully framed as an act of loving improvement. She wasn't being controlling, she was elevating my lifestyle. She wasn't isolating me from my friends, she was curating our social brand. And I, a man who has always valued peace and harmony in his personal life, far more than confrontation, simply let it happen. It was always easier to cede control over the dinner plans, the vacation destinations, or my own wardrobe than it was to engage in the same exhausting, circular argument night after night. I was the classic frog in the pot of slowly boiling water, the temperature rising so gradually that I had managed to convince myself that the encroaching heat was a form of comfort. My one true private passion, the one corner of my life that I had managed to keep sacred, is building hyper-detailed architectural models. In the small spare bedroom of my apartment, I have a workshop, a sanctuary of balsa wood, precision tools, and immense patience. I've built intricate, scale replicas of the Golden Gate Bridge and the Sydney Opera House, complex structures that require a level of focus and dedication that I find meditative. Bianca, however, viewed this passion with a thinly veiled disdain. She called it my tinkering room and referred to my meticulously crafted models as my dusty little toys. She didn't see the skill, the artistry, or the engineering prowess involved. She saw a childish, embarrassing habit that clashed with the sophisticated, high-powered image of the couple she was so desperately trying to project to the world. The boiling point, the moment the water finally reached a scalding, unbearable temperature, arrived 2 months ago. My boss, Mr. Davies, called me into his office and offered me the opportunity of a lifetime. I was to be the new lead engineer on our company's flagship project, a massive, state-of-the-art bridge in our European headquarters. It was a 2-year posting, a huge promotion with a significant salary increase, and the kind of career-defining work that I had only ever dreamed of. For about an hour, the time it took me to drive home from the office, I was ecstatic. I was walking on air. I couldn't wait to share the incredible news with Bianca. I expected her to be thrilled, to share in my excitement. Instead, I was met with a frown of pure, unadulterated logistical annoyance. "Europe?" she said, her eyes not even lifting from the tablet she was scrolling through. "For 2 years? What a hassle. I'll have to find all new contacts, and the shipping for all of our things will be an absolute nightmare. We'll have to put most of this ugly furniture you own into storage." The we was instantaneous and absolute. There was no discussion, no question of whether she would be coming with me. She immediately began planning her new life, our new life, with the ruthless efficiency of a military strategist. She talked about which district in the city she would prefer to live in, the kind of apartment she would need for all the entertaining she planned to do, and how this would be a fantastic opportunity to reinvent our brand on an international stage. My monumental career achievement, the culmination of years of hard work, had been instantly reduced to a new, more glamorous backdrop for her own social ambitions. I was thinking, I began, my voice cautious, testing the waters, that maybe I would go alone for the first couple of months. Just to settle into the job, find my footing, get everything set up. She finally looked up from her tablet, her face a perfect mask of utter disbelief. She let out a short, sharp laugh, a sound that was not of amusement, but of pure, condescending dismissal. Go alone, she scoffed, her voice dripping with a pity that was more insulting than any anger. Please, Liam, you would never survive without me. You can barely even match your own socks. You would be living on takeout and wearing a wrinkled suit within a week. Don't be ridiculous. And that was it. That was the moment the water hit a rolling boil. In that one single, cutting sentence, she had erased all of my accomplishments, my professional competence, my entire identity as a capable, independent adult. In her eyes, I was not a partner. I was a dependent, a project she managed, a well-paying pet she had successfully house-trained. A strange, profound calm washed over me then. The years of simmering resentment, of swallowed arguments and bitten tongues, all solidified into a single, cold point of purpose. I looked at her, the woman who genuinely believed she had built me from the ground up, and I made a decision. Is that so? I said, my voice quiet, almost a whisper. She didn't notice the shift in my tone, the steel that had just formed in my spine. Of course it is, sweetie, she said, already looking back at her tablet. Now, let's start looking at apartments. I didn't argue. I just nodded, a silent, beautiful agreement, letting her believe that she had, once again, won. The next morning, I walked into Mr. Davies' office and formally accepted the promotion. The project, he informed me, would begin in 60 days. And then, I began the most complex, most meticulous engineering project of my entire life. The complete and silent disentanglement of my existence from Bianca's. I began to operate in two parallel worlds. In one, I was the dutiful, if somewhat helpless, boyfriend, listening patiently as Bianca outlined her grand plans for our European adventure. In the other, I was a man executing a quiet, methodical escape. Step one was securing my new life. I contacted my company's international relocation department and explained, in confidence, that my domestic partnership was ending and that the separation needed to be handled with the utmost discretion. They were, thankfully, consummate professionals. They arranged for a premium, fully furnished corporate apartment for my first 3 months, along with a generous travel stipend. All communication regarding these arrangements was routed exclusively to my private work email. Step 2 was dismantling the old life. I gave my landlord my formal 60-day notice of termination for the apartment. The lease, which was solely in my name, would officially end on August 15th. My one-way flight was booked for the evening of August 14th. I then used a third-party service to find a new tenant for the apartment, who signed a lease to move in on August 16th. As of my departure, the apartment would no longer be mine in any capacity. Step 3, and the most complex phase of the operation, was the division of our possessions. I hired the moving company recommended by my firm, but with a very specific bifurcated mandate. All of my personal belongings, my clothes, my books, my tools, and most importantly, my entire collection of architectural models, were to be professionally packed and crated for international shipping. All of Bianca's belongings, on the other hand, were to be packed with the exact same level of care and precision, and then moved to a top-tier, climate-controlled storage unit, a unit I had rented in her name. I paid for the first 3 months in advance. To Bianca, I explained that these were relocation specialists who were coming to do a full assessment of our belongings for the international move. Her own arrogance was my greatest camouflage. She was so completely consumed with planning her European social debut that she never bothered to question the details, to look at the paperwork, or to ask a single probing question. Step 4 was erasing the digital trail. I filed a mail redirection form with the post office, ensuring all of my future correspondence would be sent to a secure P.O. box. I purchased a new phone and arranged for a new number to be activated the moment my plane left the ground. The final weeks were a masterclass in surrealism. I would come home from a long day at work to find Bianca excitedly showing me pictures of Parisian cafes she wanted to frequent, while I had just spent my lunch hour confirming the shipping insurance for my belongings. The most therapeutic part of the entire process was packing my models myself. I spent hours building custom foam inserts, carefully wrapping each delicate, intricate structure. One evening, Bianca poked her head into my workshop, a look of mild annoyance on her face. "Are you still playing with your little toys, Liam? I need your help with the color palette for the new living room." "Just securing my dusty old projects," I replied, my voice a perfect, unreadable neutral. The day of my flight, August 14th, finally arrived. The movers had come and gone days before. My things were on a container ship, somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. Her things were safe and secure in a storage unit. The apartment was a hollow, empty shell, a blank slate. Bianca was out, enjoying a celebratory farewell brunch with her friends. Her plan, was that she would meet me at the apartment at 6 o'clock, and we would then go to the airport together to embark on our grand new adventure. At 4 o'clock, I stood alone in the center of the empty living room. I took a photo of the key and the access card for the storage unit, which I had arranged to be left with the front office manager, under her name. I attached the picture to a text message, along with the facility's address and the unit number. I typed a simple message: "Your things are safe here. Goodbye, Bianca." I hit send. Then I drove to the airport, found an electronics recycling bin, and deposited my old phone into it. I took my seat on the plane, turned on my new phone, and as I watched the city lights shrink and disappear below, I didn't feel anger or sadness or even guilt. I just felt the quiet, powerful hum of a massive engine lifting me into my future. It's been 3 weeks since I landed in my new city. The work is even more challenging and rewarding than I had imagined. My corporate apartment is sleek, modern, and blessedly, wonderfully quiet. The freedom is intoxicating, but I'll admit it's also daunting. For the first week, I kept waking up with a jolt of panic, a phantom feeling that I had missed a step in my plan, that Bianca would somehow materialize in my doorway and begin to reorganize my new life according to her own exacting specifications. I didn't have to wonder for long about how she had reacted. After 48 hours of complete silence, my old secondary email account, the one I had kept active for just this purpose, became a digital war zone. Reading through the flood of messages from her friends, and her mother was like piecing together the timeline of a distant, but very loud, explosion. She must have finished her brunch, tried calling my now disconnected phone, and then, in a state of growing confusion, seen my text message with a picture of the storage unit key. She would have then gone to the apartment at 6, as planned, ready to collect her helpless boyfriend and begin their European conquest. And a new tenant would have opened the door. I can vividly picture the scene. Her pushing past him, demanding to know what he was doing in her apartment, and then the slow, dawning horror on her face as he explained that he had signed a lease a month ago. The perfectly curated world she had built for herself, dissolving on a stranger's doorstep. Her first email was a masterpiece of sputtering, incoherent rage. The messages that followed were a chaotic cocktail of threats, pleas, and accusations. Then came the emails from her proxies. Her best friend, Chloe, took on the role of the enforcer, calling me a monster and an evil, manipulative coward. Her mother attempted the guilt trip, writing a long, saccharine email about how this cruel behavior wasn't the sweet boy she knew. But the real escalation, the dirty, underhanded trick that I had fully anticipated, came through my new HR department. My boss, Mr. Davies, called me into his office, a look of genuine concern on his face. "Liam," he began, "we received a rather distressing call at your old office. A woman identifying herself as your fiancée, Bianca, claimed there was a dire family emergency, a medical crisis involving your mother. She was hysterical, demanding your new contact details and flight information." My blood ran cold. My mother is in perfect health. Thankfully, Mr. Davies continued, our staff followed protocol. Given the discreet nature of your relocation request, they flagged the call as suspicious and refused to provide any information. He assured me they had handled it, but the incident was a stark, chilling reminder of how far she was willing to go. A few days later, I received a call on my new work phone from a number I didn't recognize. It was Chloe. "You need to fix this, Liam. Now," she demanded. "Bianca is a wreck. Her life is ruined because of you." "There is nothing to fix, Chloe," I replied, my voice calm and even. "Bianca's life is her own responsibility. She was a guest in an apartment that I no longer lease. Her belongings are safe in a storage unit. She has the key and the address. A guest, she scoffed. She can't even get to her things. You didn't put her name on the access list, you psycho. An honest oversight, I said, though it was not. I have already emailed the facility and authorized them to grant her full access. It has been handled. Handled, she spat. She gave up everything for you. What exactly did she give up? I asked. She kept her job. She kept her friends. What she lost was access to my apartment and my income. Let's be honest about what this is really about. This is about you being a cruel, manipulative coward. Is it manipulative to accept a promotion? I countered. Is it cruel to leave a relationship where I was constantly told I was incompetent and incapable? She made her opinion of me very clear. I simply chose to act accordingly. I removed myself from the equation so she would no longer have to carry the burden of managing my life. I paused, then delivered the final blow. And speaking of manipulation, please inform Bianca that my employer was not amused by her fraudulent phone call about a fabricated family emergency. They have it documented. Any further attempts by her, or by you, to contact me will be referred to our corporate legal department as harassment. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. She had likely not known about that particular gambit. This isn't over, Liam, she finally said, her voice a low growl. For me, I replied, it is. I am building a new life here, one that I am perfectly capable of managing all on my own. I hung up. A few days later, a formal-looking email was forwarded to me from my company's legal team. It was from a law firm on behalf of their client, Miss Bianca Dubois. The war, it seemed, was moving to a new, more official front. It's been 6 months now since I moved. The initial turbulence has subsided, replaced by the steady, satisfying rhythm of a life that I am building on my own terms. I'm excelling at my new job, and I've even found a local hobbyist group for architectural model builders. For the first time in years, I have people to share my dusty little toys with, people who actually appreciate the skill and artistry involved. The legal battle was the final, ugly chapter of my old life. Her lawyer's initial letter was a work of pure, unadulterated fiction. It demanded a 5-figure sum for emotional distress and wrongful abandonment. It demanded palimony, claiming a series of non-existent career sacrifices she had supposedly made for me. The most ludicrous demand of all was for half the value of my personal assets, which specifically named my collection of architectural models, now described as valuable, co-owned art pieces. The sheer, breathtaking hypocrisy of her trying to cash in on the one passion she had so relentlessly mocked was almost impressive. I never responded to her directly. My company's legal department, which, thankfully, handles such matters for their international employees, took over completely. Their response was a masterclass in calm, corporate obliteration. They pointed out that we were not married, had no joint assets, and no legal partnership of any kind. They produced the lease agreement, solely in my name, and my legal notice of termination. They provided the contract for the storage unit, proving that I had taken meticulous care to preserve her property. They countered her claim of abandonment with my signed promotion acceptance and my comprehensive relocation package, all dated weeks before my departure, proving that my move was a planned, professional step. And then they went on the offensive. The final section of their letter was a formal complaint regarding Bianca's own actions. They included a log of all the harassing emails and a detailed, notarized account of her fraudulent phone call to my former office. The letter concluded by stating that any further legal action from her would result in my company fully assisting me in filing a formal complaint for harassment and attempted fraud. The response was a week of deafening silence. Then, my legal team received a one-sentence email. Miss Dubois is withdrawing all claims. Faced with the corporate legal department and the very real threat of a harassment charge, her bluff had been called. I heard about the aftermath through my sister, Maya, who still has some mutual acquaintances. Bianca had to pay her lawyer for his time. After the 3 months I had prepaid for the storage unit ran out, the expensive monthly fee became her responsibility. She eventually had to move all of her carefully curated belongings into her parents' suburban garage. Her extended stay on Chloe's couch ended abruptly when her friend grew tired of being an unpaid therapist. The last Maya heard, Bianca was working a second job to make ends meet, living in a small, cramped apartment, and constantly complaining to anyone who would listen about how her cruel, ungrateful ex had inexplicably ruined her life. There was, as I had expected, zero self-awareness. My revenge was not an act of aggression. It was an act of radical self-reliance. I took her at her word. She told me I couldn't survive without her. So, I created a life where I had no choice but to do just that, proving not only her wrong, but also proving wrong the small, withered part of myself that had started to believe her. In my new apartment, my architectural models are proudly displayed on custom-built shelves. I am currently working on my most ambitious project yet, a replica of the Pont de Normandie, a stunningly complex and beautiful French bridge. It's a testament to what a person can build with precision, patience, and a clear, unencumbered vision. I don't hate Bianca. I just feel a distant, abstract pity for her. She is a person trapped in an image of her own creation, an image with no foundation. She thought her greatest skill was managing me. In truth, her greatest skill was hiding the fact that she couldn't even manage herself. By leaving, I didn't just take away her lifestyle, I took away her project. And in doing so, I gave myself back to myself. I survived. More than that, I am building something better, something stronger, and something that is entirely, blessedly, my own.